go to our project. This is, by the way, the project that I'm using here is the one that that I've been doing the inventory thing for quite some time. I just decided to change the scenery because I got tired of it, and probably if you watch those videos, you got tired of it as well. So I just have a background image, and I turned off the environment. So this is the environment, turned it off, and just added a background image so it would look a little bit different than what we're used to. And the sound is good. You're in the computer science class, and this is more interesting. What topic are you learning right now? Looking at the important people, he said he was starting a bit late. Someone's asking if no live streams on Buildbox. Is there plans in the future? Buildbox is making a lot of changes right now, and with the release of the version 3.3.7, well, the version is not live yet. They have the beta version, and I looked into it, and there's a lot of bugs in it, and some of the shop system that I've created stopped working because I think it's just a bug, so I reported it that they're supposed to fix that, but I don't know. They need to get their software working a bit more stable before I can actually consider going back to it. I need to turn down the volume. Okay, so can Playmaker perform as same as Bolt performance? Please reply. I think I skipped one. It's high school computer science class, so it's not that advanced. We're building basic apps with different sort criteria. Well, you can make some advanced stuff in high school as well. I mean, the only limit you have is your time, but you can they don't limit you to what you do there. So but can Playmaker perform as same as Bolt perform? Please reply. About performance, I have not tested the performance of Bolt compared to Playmaker, but it shouldn't really matter, like in the performance wise, when you're just building simple stuff. The performance only hits when you're actually running like recursive functions. Well, not really recursive, but when you are working with arrays and you have multiple objects that you're by multiple, I mean like over 1,000 objects that you are manipulating at the same time. That's probably when you'll be able to start to see the performance. I mean, like I said, I didn't try that out, so maybe even 1,000 is not going to be even noticeable. But it's only once you start going into the high numbers of operations that you're doing per frame that you'll actually be starting to see the difference between Playmaker, Bolt, and C#. In most cases, you do pretty simple stuff, like for the games, and I don't know. I think the performance time sometimes is overemphasized in like making games. So it's more of like how the game engine works, and all of those Playmaker and Bolt, they're all manipulating the actual game engine. So if the game engine is actually running pretty good with like C#, when you use C#, then Playmaker and Bolt, they use an interface, I guess, to create that C# connection or whatever. to run the engine. So it shouldn't be that much of a difference. Can you say how to make action adventure game using Bolt? Someone's asking for to make a series. I have kind of, if you guys been following my channel, I kind of have a problem with a series, and the problem is that I start the series and it's all good, everyone is enjoying it, and then that enjoyment actually just falls down. So, and it kind of discouraged me from continuing it, because it feels like I'm just doing it because I said I'm gonna do it, and no one's actually interested in the series. So I think I've done probably, well, I've done like started 3 or 4 series during the year, and those series and basically all those series, that's the feeling that I'm getting. Like, you start a new series, like everyone's interested, but like that interest goes away pretty fast. So because I guess that's what's the benefit of a paid course. You are invested, you paid for a course, so you're invested into actually learning as much as you can from that course. So you're kind of you kind of have more chance of actually going through the whole series or the course that way. But on YouTube, once you start a series, if you feel like you're bored, you're not really committed to actually finish that series. So that's what I'm getting, the whole series thing on YouTube. For the series, I think, like, if I make a series, if the series can be made within like 3 or 4 videos, that's actually, I think, works pretty good for YouTube still. But anything that bigger than that, it kind of, I don't know. What do you guys think about my thinking of the series and YouTube thing? Okay, you guys are really have a lot of questions here. I don't know if we're ever gonna start on making this crafting. Hey man, can I ask you a question? What multiplayer platform, Firebase, do you prefer in Unity development? What multiplayer platform? Firebase? Firebase, as far as I know, is more for database purposes. They do have, as far as I looked into it, they do have some multiplayer, or I guess real-time communication sort of thing that you can use as multiplayer, but it's not really made to be used. I mean, you're gonna have to make most of the stuff on your own if you use Firebase. So there are other tools, like the popular one is, I think, Mirror. That's one of the popular multiplayer libraries, or what you can call it, library or a platform. That one requires you to host, I think, your own server and do that on your own server. And then the other one that has been around for, I think has been around for longer than Mirror, which is Photon, and they have different types of services there. And they have one that is closer to Mirror, how Mirror works, and another one. I did make some tutorials on the multiplayer using Photon. I wanted to make some tutorials using Mirror, but I never got around to it yet. So maybe in the future. Turn-based. But just a side note, I did use Firebase to create my own multiplayer game, but I wasn't using Unity. I was just testing out what was it, Google's. Oh, I lost it. What was it? Nope. Anyways, Google's language that they're creating for creating mobile apps for cross-platform, meaning for iOS and for Android. I forgot what it was. I did it like a year or 2 years ago that I tried it out, but that's as far as I went with using Firebase as a multiplayer. It was a simple. Also, it was a turn-based multiplayer game, but it was basically I had to create everything manually. I mean, from scratch. There wasn't things that I could have used for that. Help me open Discord, please. So what's the about course? I would pay for a course. You would pay for a course. What course? So what about course? I would pay for a course. So I was thinking maybe to create a course, but I'm not sure like what is your guys's interest are, because the YouTube channel been around for the YouTube channel has been around for a year, and if you don't know that I started with a Buildbox, which was no code base, and then I migrated to Unity. I was thinking to actually do just Unity and C#, but actually, since I was doing no code before, I felt kind of to continue with that, and Bolt was actually released for free at that time, so I decided to start making Bolt tutorials, and that's the last half a year. I think it's a little bit over half a year already. I was doing Unity and Bolt tutorials. I did make some C# tutorials, but mostly it's just Bolt tutorials. So, and this is where I'm not sure which direction to go right now. This is where I'm kind of need your guys' input of what your guys' interests are, because the two routes that I can do is like I can do some Bolt tutorials and Bolt courses. So one option that I was thinking was to create a Bolt course for creating multiple mobile games, to create mobile games using Bolt. But I'm not really sure if that's your guys' interest. And the other thing is that since Unity is changing a lot with how Bolt is integrated and how it's going to be used in the future, I don't know if it's the perfect time of actually creating a Bolt course, because a lot of it is going to be changing real soon. And the promise, well, not the promise, their current development with Bolt for creating higher level units is also kind of, I guess, would be more interesting to create a course or even tutorials with that. But the other course idea that I had was actually like a beginner level C# course. So I don't know, maybe beginner is probably too much, but actually create a course that really starts from the beginning of the C# and Unity really starts from the beginning of the whole coding adventure, because I don't know, sometimes I feel like the beginner courses that exist, they kind of not really a beginner, they're more of intermediate. They expect you to know some kind of coding ahead of time, but I don't know. That's the ideas of courses that I had. If you guys have any inputs, like, be sure to share that, because that will be very valuable. Are you right? You sound a bit nervous and or anxious. Is everything okay? Yeah, it's fine. I'm just not used to doing live streams, so just gotta get back to it. And yeah, my voice might be a little bit lower because it is a morning for me, very early morning. How much time you spent on game developer as a game developer? Is a game developer. The first time I think I did game development was probably like 5 years ago. So I wasn't really doing it full time, just trying it out. But I started full time like over to 1.5 years ago, something like that. But before that, I was working in a commercial environment, but for web apps and all of that. So I think probably 10 plus years already of experience in programming. So most of the time is spent programming some databases, back-end stuff, front-end, and all of that stuff. A coding sucks, man. I really don't like that. What I like is visual scripting. Yeah, well, some of the things are easier to be done with coding because with visual scripting, once the complexity of your game increases, those visual nodes get really hard to control. So, and in code there's lots of different patterns that you can use to simplify how everything's connected. I was thinking of actually like maybe trying to interpret those design patterns into visual scripting, but I don't know, there's lots of problems with that. Okay, you guys are communicating with each other. Okay, cool. Wait, I have no clue how to code or visual scripting. Yeah, you have to just start somewhere. There's lots of tutorials. I tried to make some beginner tutorials on my channel for visual scripting, so you can check those out if you're interested. But like any skill that you want to learn, you have to start somewhere. It's not gonna come by just hoping that it will come to you. I think if you made a course, it would be good to make 3-4 part courses for a full simple game. 3-4 part course. I remember I had asked someone to collab. Mobile games would be nice. Nice to learn. What if you did one with Bolt and one with C#? Yeah, I haven't done currently haven't done any courses yet, so the first course I think that I would make would be really short, just to go through the whole process and get a feeling for it. because I was been focusing on YouTube mostly. Well, yeah. I think if it is a course, I would expect to make a complete game out of course using Bolt. Personally, I would like a top-down adventure game. Crafting including would be great. At the time, we would have a good grasp of coding, animations, out basic stuff. Because with course, we can ask you what we want to have. We have problems that can be resolved ourselves. Yeah. So that's what I feel with courses as well. Like since you're not trying to focus your audience on YouTube, which means that the videos need to be short and straight to the point, the course can actually include a little bit more information and just be in general a slower paced. So like give enough information so that everyone would actually understand the topic that we're going through. So that is the benefit of a course that I see. Okay, let's see if I can catch up with the chat. Okay, I feel like a lot of people are discouraged when trying to learn programming and make games, even just simple ones, for the first time. I think that it's because, like you said, the courses are intermediate. Yeah, that's the feeling I get about the beginner courses that I've seen. I'm pretty sure there's beginner courses that actually start from the beginning of programming, but since the beginner courses are like, you can say it's a beginner Unity course, but they kind of, it's not a beginner programming Unity course, meaning that they already expect you to have some kind of knowledge of programming. Though most of them do go through the basics, I guess, well, not really go through the basics, but just skim through just the terminology and just go on expecting that you got it. But yeah, so when they go to follow them, they feel like too hard for them and may give up. Helpful for many people. Buildbox, please. Hey there. He explained earlier that Buildbox isn't stable and he won't want to work with it if it's, yeah, the Buildbox, I don't know. I don't know if people were with me with our channel when I was doing Buildbox, but I had a plan to actually make a course on Buildbox with their JavaScript, but it's changing too much and it's kind of unstable, so I'm kind of pushing it back. Still hoping that it will get to a stable point where it would make sense to actually start making a course. But there are like issues that they, since they are in development, well, they have a version that is out, but they're not really following like deprecating APIs. They just remove it and without telling you anything about it. So with that, I don't really feel comfortable of actually investing time into making a course for Buildbox when it's like that, you know. Clue about coding. I need to get into Unity but have zero clue about coding. There's lots of things that you can learn in Unity that does not involve coding. Like Unity is so big that the coding is actually, well, the logic of your game is going to be in the coding, but how you create animations, how you import your 3D models and your audio files and all of the scene setup, that's a lot of learning that you have to do. So I think having understanding of that first before you go into like coding is probably would help you a lot. I don't know that much, but I do know a little. I can say though that Unity is a really good place to learn. Yeah, it's a big community, so there's a lot of people that can help you out. I think it is. It's a tool that you can use as a beginner and as a professional. So that's the benefit of like using Unity. Nice, love it. I have a question for when Unity says horizontal axis in is not set up, and I can't do PS Move because it does not work. What do I do? Capitalize horizontal. Yeah, so I can quickly show that. So the horizontal movement, you go to project settings, and under input management, here you have the axes, and currently my size is 18, and you can see the names right here. These are the axes that are set up. And right here I have the horizontal. So if you have horizontal here, that means you can use those axes to control your game. Thanks for the comments, much appreciated. Okay, so I think I caught up finally, and well, we had a lot of people join and leave because we haven't started the tutorial. So right here I have let's take a look at what I'm starting with, and it's what I did. The start is going to be from what I did in the previous video, previous tutorial, and it's just I did the stackable tutorial. So you can stack the carrots right now. You can disable the hunger bar, so you can pick them up and do all that stuff. I have the hunger bar disabled because I don't want to show it here. Let's move it down, or yeah, just so it wouldn't make the view all messy. Okay, so that's what we're starting with. Now with the crafting, make a video about chop tree. Now with the crafting, there are different approaches that you can take. I think the easiest one would be is actually creating a separate UI. Basically, you go to your craft by, I don't know, clicking C on your keyboard, and it just turns on your craft window, and you just have a list of things that you can craft. And basically that's like a recipe book, and you can click on any of those recipes. If your inventory has enough of those items, you just crafts it and puts that crafted item in the inventory. That's one way you could go about approaching that. So with that set up, most of your work is going to go towards actually creating that recipe book UI, so it would work correctly, and an easy way of actually adding recipes to that book. That's one of the approaches that you can take. So just have a recipe book, you double click, you click on it or double click, whatever you want to do, and you do an attempt of actually creating that craft from the recipe book. The other approach would be like something that Minecraft uses. Well, something similar to Minecraft. So you have a craft window, and then you have slots where you can put your items in there, and based on which items you've put in, you can the program actually is going to pull up the recipe that if the recipes actually exist, that you can use to create that that you can use to create that item. So, and that approach is going to be more of you're going to have to do more work with the whole UI of moving the items, and that's what I'm thinking of doing here. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it like in just one live stream, because currently I don't have any UI movement. I mean, I can't move any of my items. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. Now, instead of creating a separate UI, what I'm gonna do is just try to make it faster. Now I'm just gonna use the bottom 4 slots right here as my crafting, I guess, slots. So the first thing that I will do is in my inventory, the very last slot, I'm gonna actually add a text to it. Let's actually so let's do this. I'm gonna add a UI text. Now let's do a button. I think a button is gonna work better. So let's add a button. There is our button. I can remove the last slot. And so here is my button. And this button is gonna be, let's find the text for that button. So craft. So the idea is you use these bottom slots to place your items, and if the items that you put in there has a recipe that exists, we can click the craft button is going to like light up or something. Somehow will make it visible, and then if you click craft, it's going to actually create the item out of those crafts. So that's the idea. Haven't done this before, so we're gonna figure it out as we go. Let me change the color of those items so we can distinguish them a little bit. I think, yeah, just leave it like that. So now the next step would be to be able to move those items and put them in here. Some of the ways that I can do that is by allowing you to pick up the whole stack, and then just like in Minecraft, you can click on these slots and actually gonna put them in. The other way would be actually dragging just one item at a time. So if you click on the item, drag it here, it's just gonna drag one item. So like it's gonna be more of this motion of getting one, dragging, put in here, get another one, dragging in here. So I don't know which way to go, but those are the options we have. So what do you think? Which one should we use? Should we do the grabbing the whole stack and then being able to place, or dragging one at a time? What do you guys think? I went to college for a electrical engineering. So I was majoring in electrical engineering. I have a bachelor's in electrical engineering, but I also minored in computer science. So kind of have both sides. Most of the focus was, so my college days were like mostly math oriented, so a lot of calculations and all that stuff. The computer science or software engineer, I don't know what's the difference. I mean, it depends from college to college, I guess, the difference between computer science and software engineer. The place where I live, we just have computer science. There's no such thing as software engineer, because if you have a computer science degree, you can work as a software engineer. So not sure what's the difference in your college. Like, you have to look at what is actually the difference there. So dragging the stack, and it only takes the amount it needs. It only takes the amount it needs. You mean like putting the whole stack there, and then when you craft it, just craft that item? See, the thing is, like, if you do it that way, like if you drag the whole stack and put like 50 here, what if you have a recipe for different things? So you have a recipe that uses 3 of that items for creating like something, and then you have a recipe that uses 5 of those items to create something else. So that then you have to be able to choose which item you actually want to create. I think the reason why, like in Minecraft, you have that they went and used the whole, actually, like, you have to place it in the right place, is because it's much easier to like figure out which exact item you're trying to craft. So this kind of like encoding, actually, the actual, because with those patterns, like a 3x3, right? It's a 3x3. With a 3x3, there's a lot of, I guess, patterns that you can create that might use the same amount of resources, but they craft a total different item. Yeah, didn't really play that much Minecraft, so I'm not an expert, but that's the idea that I have of it. So yeah, that's probably, so what I was thinking is, like, if you drag if you click on a stack, you just pick up the whole stack, and just like in Minecraft, you can place like one item here, another item here, and another item here. So let's actually do that. Okay, so currently, let's see, let's pick up those carrots. So currently, if I click any of the mouse buttons, it actually uses up that item. So I'm gonna change it that you have to click the right button to use up that item. So that's a change. And then if you click with the left mouse button, we're actually gonna pick up that item. And that's all inside of our slot graph. Okay, so the using part is right here. So this is what I was talking about, like the graph already looks pretty complicated on what's going on here. I mean, I can go and do what you do in code, like refactor it, so like break it up into super units and do all that stuff. I mean, that's some of the cleanup that you can do. But then again, to create a super unit does take a little bit of time, because you have to create the inputs, the outputs, and I think it's a little bit faster to do that with code. Like, just you can create another C# a function, or you can create another class and store that inside a class. But we're doing Bolt right now, so let's just start using Bolt. Okay, so right now I have on pointer up, so whenever you release the button, it just goes into this branch. Now I want to switch based on which button you used to click on that UI element, and you can use a switch. So under controller, we can use a switch on enum, and the reason why I'm using an enum, because come on, there we go. Because I can from the pointer event data, I can actually find what it was called. I think it was like an input button or something like that. Button. Let's look for button. Get. Okay, so yeah, so from the pointer event data, I can get the button, and this one returns an enum, and it's an input button on pointer event data. So we can look up that enum, so input button pointer event data, and then enum has 3 values, so left, right, and middle. Now I can connect it here, and based on which button was pressed, I can break up what I want to do. So those. This is the. Are you asking if this is build box? No. So this is a way I can use to break it up. So, like I said, I'm gonna use the right mouse button to actually use the item. So connect to the logic that we had previously. And if I click on the left mouse button, I want to pick up that item. No, this is not Roblox. This is Unity Bolt. So it's Unity's visual scripting. They're gonna actually rename it to just Unity Visual Scripting in pretty soon. So currently it's called Bolt. So if the left button is pressed, then I want to actually pick up that item. So how are we going to pick up that item? I'm going to pick up that item by Am I using an update function method here? No, I'm not. Okay, so currently what I'm going to do is just set a flag. So for that, let's add a graph. Use a variable picked up. I don't know. Sounds fine. Boolean, and this flag Okay, let's remove it. So if the left button is going to be pressed, then I'll set the flag, put it in literal, to true. Okay, so for now, that's all I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna have to probably modify it a little bit later, but now I'll add a update unit. And inside the update, let's branch it based on if it's picked up. So if the item is picked up, then what should we do? Then I'll allow the item to be dragged. So position, set position to be, and we'll get input dot come on, input mouse position. Okay, let's see if that's gonna work. Close that, click play. Okay, let's pick up an item, and now if I right click, we use it, and if I left click, there we go. So I can undrag that item, but that item is being, so it just follows my mouse. The order is messed up. Interesting. It's above every single one of these items, but once I get to the bottom items, it's underneath those. That's interesting. Not sure why it's doing that. But okay, so what should we do now? So I think we're gonna have to do a lot of like breaking up for the logic to be able to make the logic work better. And this whole item, yeah, I don't think this approach is going to work of actually moving the whole slot. We're going to have to be able to break out from all of this code that we have already here. I'll have to put the item in another in another, like a bucket that I can carry. So that's what I will do. Yep. So I'll go back here, and in my canvas, I'm gonna create another empty object. Just call it game object. No, well, what should we call it? I'll just call it item holding. And in here we will add a bolt. I'm debating if I should use a state machine or not. Let's start with a macro first. A flow machine. So in the item, I'll move this code right here, picked up. I could have used the state machine for switching on this variable change, but maybe in the actual tutorial I'll change that, but for now, let's just, since we're trying to figure out the best way of doing this, let's just do this. What does a state machine do? So I did make a video on a state machine, but what was it for? Let me try to remember which video was using the state machine. Basically, the idea behind a state machine is like you execute different code based on what state you are. So yes, that okay, I remembered. So I used it for the AI tutorial. So if you watched the AI tutorial where I did it for the so it's, where is it? Okay, so this tutorial right here, which I did for Thanksgiving. So basically the turkey follows the corn, and in here I used the state machine. So if you want this is how it looks, by the way. And based on the state, what state, well, in this case, what state the UI in, so it performs different action. So each state has its own flow macro, that flow machine that it uses. So like this is a flow machine with an update. There's another flow machine with an update function, and when a state changes, that means all of the code that was in the previous state doesn't run. So the only code that runs is based on the only code runs that of the state there you're actually in. So that's just basically, you can do that with just a branch or an if statement, but it keeps, I guess, the graphs cleaner in that way. Like for instance, in my item slot, Well, actually, I don't really have any branches. I mean, the only branch that I have is right here, the branch that checks for if it's taken or not. So technically, I could have used a state machine for this portion of it, but then this part is actually common to both of them. So that's why I didn't use a state machine. I could have actually have this in a flow machine and then have this in a state machine. So break up those graphs into two different macros. So we can remove this portion. So on pickup, we need to do some events. When you click left, what I'm going to do is run an event. So trigger custom event. The event, I'll put the event on them. Wait, this is item inventory. So I'll connect the event on the parent. Parent get parent. So this event's going to be connected to the parent, and I'll just pick up item, pass in one argument, and for argument I will actually pass in self. Okay, now we can go to the item holding, and inside here we want to actually listen for the events. Custom event, it's connected to inventory. Pick up item and one argument. So I'll add that graph variable here, boolean default false, and once I pick up that item, what I want to do is move the children of from that slot into this game object that I created. For that, I'll use a for. Let's do for each loop, and the list is going to be, let's see if I can get children. Get child. Actually, I cannot get a list of children. So actually I'm gonna have to use a for loop then. For loop is gonna start at first and is gonna continue until transform get a child, just one child count, and until the last one. So inside here, for every body, I want to use set parent, and this can be self. So I'm going to be changing the parent from the previous parent of that child to this parent, and I need to get child. Okay. Wait, is it? Okay, I don't have to actually have it connected. So it's gonna be get child and the wait. Parent. The parent is gonna be self. I'm gonna be getting the first child. It's gonna be always the first child because each for loop I'll be removing the first child, so I just have to get the first index all the time. I don't have to actually use the index to change here, because the first item is always gonna be moving. So this right here should move all of the items from my slot into this game object that I just created. So let's click play. I missed one thing. I forgot to set the flag after I pick up. So let's set the flag. Wait, no, not here. That's gonna be doing it every frame, for every. So after the for loop, I'm just gonna pass in set the flag boolean that I have the item picked up. There you go. Let's see if that's gonna work. So that I should be able to pick up that item without actually touching that slot. I still have to change the color of the slot to be like empty. Well, let's. Okay, so if I click on that, that looks fine. So I was able to pick those items up, but it looks like I'm there's some offset from my mouse to my game object. So let's see what's going on. Anchor is N0. Seems like what's going on is that my position is actually so before I start the whole parent changing, I need to position my my game object to the location of the mouse, because when I move it, it just stores that little location there. So let's do that. So duplicate these items right here, and right before I go into the for loop, I'm gonna reposition the game object, this game object, to the mouse location, so that the center is actually going to be. So currently the item holding is actually at 0, 0, which is here, and when I click on it, it just moves these items into that location, and then it moves afterwards. Then it moves the from 0, 0 to this point, and I get that shift. So right now what I'm going to do is first move from 0, 0 to this location of my mouse, and then it's going to change to children, which is going to have get rid of that offset that I was getting. So let's see if that theory is actually correct. Right, there we go. Okay, perfect. So like I said, I still have to change the color of that slot, but no. Now I have that item, and I'm free to do whatever I want with it. Pretty cool. So I think well, currently I'm using the same logic for these slots and these slots right here. So if I'm gonna make it in a way that you can actually be able to place them here and in these slots as well. So you try to use the same logic for both of them, since they already use the same logic. Let's try this out. So let's go to my item slot and think about what we can do. Okay, so the first thing is I want to change the behavior of if, well, actually, let's do that white. Let's do that clearing part. So right now, the parts that clear that spot is right here. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, and let me actually break them out over here and use an event to trigger those. So sometimes you can use the custom events as, I'm not sure how are they on performance wise, like if that's actually a bad idea, but sometimes you can just use a custom event as like a method. So you can break this out, and this can be like my method or a function. So I'll just call it clear slot. And in here now, I can remove all of this. And add trigger, custom event, clear slot. So do this here, like that. That cleans up a little bit, and that allows me to actually now reuse this clear slot method, or whatever you want to call it, and connect it here. Then I can actually use the same logic to clear that that slot. Another thing that I'm gonna change is the order of how it's happening. So currently I'm checking if it's taken after I do the switch, but actually let me move that in front, because I want to do different operation if the state is if the state of the item of the slot isn't taken. So let me do that instead. So if it's right, then we're going to use it, and if it's let me do that, actually cleaning up a little bit more. So I guess it's gonna be easier to see what's going on. So let's create another custom event. So use item, come on, use item. Okay, and then I can move all of this. Come on, right here. Then another block that I have is this right here, which is updating the count in the UI. So this is, I mean, you could make super units, but the problem with super units, so if I create a super unit, for instance here, so if I create a super unit here, and if I keep it just embedded, each time I duplicate that super unit, the code between those two super units is going to be, well, the graph between those two super units are going to be different. So you'll have to actually switch it from embedded to macro. And if that macro is just going to be used in this graph, I just don't like it that I'm going to have extra files of macros that whenever you're going to be searching, they're going to be coming up when you actually don't need them and stuff like that. So I guess the way I prefer this, like to actually break it up like this into separate functions, since I'm not going to be actually using these graphs anywhere outside of this item slot unit. So update UI count, let's call it like that, and connect it here. So after we use that item, I want to trigger the update UI count. Why is it well, the argument count is 0. So that's one thing that I want to do. Yeah, duplicate this trigger, and then I can replace so I can replace the whole part right here with that. Duplicate that, and now I can use item and replace this part. So that's just, I guess, cleaning up. So now I have a lot of custom events triggers, but all those custom events are right here. And maybe it's gonna be easier to understand it now after I do that. Okay, so we did a lot of changes, and I haven't tested out if I have bricked anything or not. So let's go and check it out. Click play. See if I broke a whole bunch of stuff or not. Okay, pick up those carrots. That still works. Okay, we can use those items. Nice. And child out of bounds. So what? Who is? Let's see which graph is throwing the error. So the only place where I think it could be caused is inside here. Okay, right there. So I get the child is out of bounds. Clear slot. Okay, so I'm getting this error now because I moved the children away from the item slot, which reminds me that I'm actually not supposed to do that, because if I do that, it's actually gonna break how my slots work. So instead of changing the parent, I need to actually do. Did I pause the game? I did. Instead of changing the parent, I need to actually clone that information into my new location. Pickup. Okay, this is not item slot, but item holding. So inside here, where I set the parent of those children. Let's see if I can clone a game object. I think I can just instantiate create. So if I'm going to switch it to use instantiate instead, then I'll actually have to use the index. So instantiate for everybody. Connect here, and the transform that I'm instantiating is this one. Let's see if that's gonna work. Okay. the scale is a little bit off. And it's probably because I use 100 by 100. What is the item slot? It's 50 by 50. Is that what it's doing it? 50, 50. That might be what's causing that scale issue. Cool, cool. Okay, so now I got the right scale. That number still doesn't disappear, and it's due to the fact that I didn't decrease the count to 0 when I cleared it. So, okay, so that's much better. Don't get the error, but let's go quickly fix that count issue. Okay, so is taken is false. Okay, I actually need to select this prefab because I want to see the objects. I'm not gonna use the picked up anymore, so I can remove that. Inside the object I have the count, so I need to, when I clear the slot, I need to set it to 0. So integer 0. And I think another thing that I haven't done before that I should is clear the item ID as well. So for the item ID, I need to also pass in a string literal. I'll just pass in a space. Okay, after that, I need to run the UI update because that UI update is update UI. Is what's responsible for removing the count. Source valid unknown enum source unexpected. Some errors. Getting some errors. Okay, so there we go. We finally got it to work like we wanted, and now let's decide what we're going to do next. So once I click on the item, I put it inside the item holding, and now I have to do the logic of placing it in the item slot. Anyone has any suggestions how we can do that? There's two things that I need. I need to know which item slot I'm currently over, and then once I click, I need to be able to put those items into that slot. So let's do it by storing the variable of the item slot in the inventory. So inside the inventory, I'll add a variable and we'll call it hover slot. Sounds good. And so this is going to be a game object. And in our item slot, let's go inside here. Inside here, what we're going to do, if check if our pointer, so on pointer inner, I think, right? On pointer enter. Set variable, object variable, that game up. Okay, how am I getting the inventory here? I think I have a scene variable. Well, scene variable is only hunger bar. There's also an inventory. Let me go to the inventory, edit, and inside the inventory I have an application variable, which is inventory. Okay, so I can use that in the item slot. Let's go here in the item slot. Get variable. Get application variable. The application variable is inventory, and that's the game object that we're going to use get that to get connection to our inventory. Now, set variable. The variable that we're setting, already forgot what the variable name was. Inventory hover slot. Okay. And the value that we're passing is actually self. Is it self? Yes. Passing self. Okay, this way, okay, so this is gonna store. This is gonna store that variable, and now the other thing that I need to do is actually clear that variable on pointer exit. So on pointer exit. But there is a check that I have to do to be able to clear it, and it is I want to clear it only if the variable actually equals 2. So we need a get variable, get object variable, our slot, and I have to do the same. Connect it to a branch. No, actually, no, it's not a branch. But I need to check if it equals 2. So if some other variable, if some other game object is actually stored in there, then I actually want to skip this part, but I need to check if it equals to self. So if it's self, then the value that I want to pass here is actually null. Okay. I don't know, hopefully this makes some sense to you guys, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that are going to be going on here to make this whole movement to work. So this part, if we enter, we store that game object inside there, and if on exit, whenever the pointer exits, then we if the game object actually equals to this game object, then we clear that by setting to null. And the reason why I need to set it to null, because that's what I'm going to be checking in the that's what I'm going to be checking for in the other script here. So let's go back here. Okay. You know what? I just realized that there's an easier route of doing that than what I just did. Well, it was a good practice. So we actually can we actually can ignore all of this. A lot of work for nothing, but that's what programming is. So instead, so hover slot. We can remove that variable. And I need to make sure, I need to be able to get this item holding game object available globally, I guess. So the way I usually do that is on start. So start. I set a variable. So this is kind of a same approach as you would do in coding, like a singleton, yeah, approach of making a signal, or whatever. And this is gonna be our holding item. Actually, item holding. So I just create an application variable and I save self as an application variable. That way I can get the application variable from any point in my game by just looking at for like that. Alrighty. So now the approach that I'm thinking of taking instead is, instead of doing the logic here of placing the item in the slot, I'm going to actually do the logic on the item slot itself, and inside there, that's where I'm going to be checking what we have here. I guess that makes, if that makes any sense. One more, oh, actually no, let's just leave it. In the item slot, so in here, I want to run this logic only if isTaken is actually false. So let's do a duplicate connected right here. So same thing using the enum based on the button. I don't know, like if I'm going to use multiple buttons, but for now let's just do it like that. So if I'm going to click let's say left button, somebody doesn't like me. When you finish Discord, let me check the Discord, what we got there. Okay, so if I click on the left mouse button, what I want to do is move from the item holding to this item slot. I'm just thinking of a way, what's the easiest way of doing that. And I think what I'll do is actually change the parent for this one. So let's go into our other graph, item holding, and the parent logic is right here. Let's go back to the item slot, edit graph, paste it in here. Whoops, come on, okay. Paste it in here, and on the left mouse button, no, I think that's actually a bad idea, because I'm planning to actually move one item at a time. So that means that there should be some other logic that that will have to run. So I'm gonna have to run this add item logic, which I think is fine. The problem is that the input of this item logic is expected to have all the values, well, which count, item ID, and the sprite. The only one that I don't have right now is the sprite, right? Yeah. And it also destroys that object, which I don't want to destroy. Ideally, I would actually like to reuse this custom event, but let's actually not do that just yet. See what we're working with, what's the similarities and what's the differences. And in here, what we'll do is add item from holding. For count, I'm actually gonna just add, wait, I think this one should, there. For count, I'm just gonna add 1. the item ID. So I need to remove the destroy. We're not destroying those items. Still want to set is taken to true. Change that. Well, everything's fine. And the get item sprite. So this is the only thing I have to change, and it's supposed to use the get child. The child index of 1, and I need to get sprite. Sprite. Image get sprite. So I think that's the difference between those two methods. I'm still not subtracting from the count of my items, but let's see if it's gonna work. If it's gonna work. Wait. And item. And the argument that I'm passing in is actually going to be the application variable. So add unit get item holding. I think that's what it was called. So let's check it out and let's see if that's gonna actually work. Let's see if that's gonna work. Will this live become video so we can rewatch it later? So I'm just in this live stream. I'm just trying to figure out. I just decided to make a live stream in case you guys have any questions, or I'm just doing this live stream just to show the process of how I go about, like, I guess, figuring out how to make some mechanic. And this is the process, by the way, I go for all the tutorials. I figure it out on this first, and then find the easiest and simplest solution to do something, and then I go and try to make a very short tutorial on how to do it. So this live stream is just gonna be like, yeah, it's gonna be longer than the actual tutorial video, but I'm still planning to like shorten and make a tutorial like I usually do. So probably not probably I'm not gonna go through actually creating it live in tutorial, like, because how I make the tutorials is basically I try it out, then I revert everything back to the start point and recreate everything, trying to like just create as explain on the way. So, and some of the tutorials that I make is actually, well, I don't know if you can even call them tutorials, but I just show the process of what is where and how it's connected, how it works. So I still do explanations, but not really like actually adding units live. The units are already pre-created. I mean, not units, but the graphs are created. I just walk through the tutorial, what is what, trying to explain what's going on, so you have a better understanding of what these graphs are doing. So let's pick up those items. Okay, and it's not working. Why is it not working? What am I missing here? So if is taken is false, then it should go into this logic, which is supposed to trigger this add item holding event. I don't get any errors. But I also don't have that information, do I? Yeah, I actually don't copy the information about the item ID and the but it should have at least displayed the sprite. The sprite portion works. Okay, this is interesting. For some reason, I think it actually log message. Okay, debug log. Okay, the message string. And I'm just gonna run the sprite portion of it. So it's not registering the click event. I am using left, right? Okay, that's good. Left mouse button. Left mouse button. Okay. So let me see if let's see if actually there's a problem. Okay. Come on, come on. If I pick up that, okay, it looks like it's not working. Okay, so yeah, I think it's because I'm blocking the UI interactions that are underneath this this item. Maskable recast. trying to figure out how to allow the pass-through clicks on the UI items. Can't seem to find it. Where is it located? So if I pick it up and then if I turn off the image, actually the text also is blocking it. So maybe it's text is actually blocking it, not. Nope. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so it is there. I guess I had to do it on both of them. So let's go to the item slot, and what I need to do is disable the array cast target from both the image and the text. But where is it in text? Right there. So right. Okay. So after I disable that, I should be able to pick out those items, and now I can place them wherever I want. So currently the count is not actually decreasing, and also I'm not checking if I'm currently holding an item or not, because I can just pick up those items and wait, that was weird. They can switch and stuff. So two things I need to do is block from picking up items if I already have an item picked up, and then once you place an item, actually subtract the count. Let's go do that. Okay, so the subtraction part of it, I guess we can do it. We can do the subtraction count after we add that item, holding item. So in here, I'll do a trigger custom event. If I can spell trigger event. Trigger custom event. I'm going to trigger it on the holding item, and I'll say sub remove item. And I'll pass in an argument of how much items I'm going to be removing. So I'm just going to remove one item. Remove just one item. Okay. Now, now in here, to block me from being able to pick up an item when I already have an item, what I'm going to do is actually duplicate this item holding. And there is a variable, get the variable, game object, I think it was called picked up. Let's go to here. I thought I had a, oh, okay, I made it as a graph variable. So I need to move it for it to be a it to be a object variable instead. So let's move that, and where do I use it here? So graph to object and graph to object variable. Because I actually want to see it from the item slot. I want to check if I have an item picked up or not. Okay, so if item is picked up, then branch. So if there is an item picked up, then I want to not do anything. And if there isn't an item picked up, then I actually want to continue. Continue with be able to pick up another item. Okay, so the subtraction is going to be happening on the item side of things, and so yeah, I think we're good here. I can remove these log messages since we figured out what was causing that, and can remove the log message from here as well. Now I still don't have the update UI count. I'm just adding one. I still don't have the variables that I'm looking here for, which is the item ID. Currently that's the only one that I'm using here, but I also need to store the count variable as well. So in this item slot I have item ID and count, and I need to be able I need to actually move those variables to my holding item holding. So inside here we need to add item ID. It's going to be a string, and we need to add count, and it will be also count is going to be an integer. Okay, now when I'm getting when I'm picking up an item, I need to store that count information and that item ID information. So let's do that. right here. So set variable and set variable. So the names, the names of the variables are exactly the same, except the object that we're getting it from is the one that we're picking up. So we can do this right here. I think that's all that we gotta do. So that should get the item ID working, and now. And now actually I can do the counting part of it. So let's actually run and see, make sure there's no errors that we got into. Okay. So currently I'm trying to, so I can place those items down, and I think the IDs and all of that is right. So what's left is the count. So once I place an item down, to subtract the count from the amount of items I'm holding. So I'm blocked also. So I just right now I was trying to block from being able to pick up an item once I'm holding an item. So right here I can't pick up that turnip when I'm holding a carrot already. So let's do the count. For the count, there is a couple things that we need, and it's we'll need to update. We'll need to update the UI. But we are listening for an event. Remove item. Okay, so let's go to item holding inside here. So we need to create another event, custom event, event holding. Event holding. Remove item. And we are getting one argument, and it's the count, the amount of basically a count of how many items we're removing. So let's duplicate this count right here and do a subtraction. Subtract scalar. And we're subtracting the argument 0. That's going to be our final count. After we calculate the count, we need to update our UI. So the UI of count is our get child at index 1 and set text. Set text. So we can connect it like that. Okay. We need to convert integer to string. Pass it in, so that should update our count and also update it in the display. But there's one more thing that we need to check. So we need to update the count only if we have more than 0 left. So if it's 0, we need to actually remove the item from being holding. So that, okay, I should have not break that. Okay, so let's do a greater comparison, and we're checking if it's greater than 0. So if our count is greater than 0, we can do a branch. So if it's true, then we can just do that logic of updating them. The count, if it's false, that means we need to remove remove the state. So let's do this. Picked up is going to be set to false. So let's do set. So if it's false, come on, there we go, false, pass in a boolean of false. After that, we need to remove both of the children. So let's do game object destroy. So, and we have 2 game objects. Get child index 0, and then get child index 0 again. I'm not sure if I can pass in the transform, if it's going to find or not. Let's just try it and see if it's going to run it or not. Okay, so now we should be able to decrease the count of how much items we're holding. Let's click that. And then after we place all of those items down, then we should be able to pick up other items as well. Let's test it out. Okay. So the count is working. 2, 1, and so we got an error. And can't okay, so we do have to specify the game object. Can't just pass in a transform and try to remove it, so we have to actually pull up the game object. Get game object. And actually I can just reuse the same. There we go. So let's see if that's gonna work. Let's see if that's gonna work. So placing those down. We're still getting stuck with that one. Our text doesn't get removed. Item holding. So let's do this. First, I'll remove the index of 1, because I'm not sure if the removal actually happens after after the update is finished running or not. So we'll remove the first one. That way we'll avoid the error of removing index 1 when we remove index 0. And then we're going to remove the index 0. Let's try it out. Okay, 3 items. 1, 2, 3. Okay, there we go. So now it's working. So one more thing that I want to do is be able to place multiple items. So if I already have an item there, to actually add that item into that slot. If the IDs actually equal. Okay, so for that we need to go to our item slot and add a graph. So I still didn't get to the crafting part because like I said, for the crafting that I'm trying to create right now, we need to actually do that whole UI, the whole UI of moving items from one part to the other part in our inventory. And because I didn't create that yet, I have to actually create that and then the crafting part as well. But we are the place where I was gonna check. So the place that I want to check is, so if the place is taken, so it goes here, and then I check if I'm holding an item. So currently, if I'm holding an item, and it's not doing anything. So if the current holding item is true, then we're not doing anything. But right now I want to check if we're holding an item, and the item ID equals to the item that is in the slot, to actually run the logic of adding that item as well. So let's try that out. So in here we'll do another branch. I could have done I could have just used one branch and a whole bunch of Boolean logic, but maybe we'll clean it up later. But for now, let's just do this right here. Okay, so what I'm checking now is for the item ID, and I'm comparing it if it equals to the item ID that I'm currently holding. So that part is actually okay. Let's go to the inventory, and there is a part that does that already. So I check for both things if it's stackable and I'm holding an item. The stackable variable is not stored. Is not stored anywhere right now, which I think I should store it in the yeah, for now I'm not going to use the stackable item for now. I'll actually leave it here. Just it's gonna be hanging out here. Item holding, so that I'll add, okay, wrong one, so that I don't forget to add that in. So I'm not doing the stackable item right now, because I need to add the stackable variable to both of my objects, and there is a lot of variables that I'm just passing from one, well, not a lot actually, like the stackable and sprite variables that I'm passing from one object to another, because I don't have a central place where actually I can pull up all of that information. So it would be actually a lot of help if I create a dictionary with item ID to like all the variables from that object, but still haven't got around to creating that. It would have been nice to just use a scriptable object and just store the data that way, but we are creating everything with Bolt, so that's why I'm kind of avoiding the scriptable object. That would have been the easier way of doing it. Okay, so I check if they are equal. So if the IDs do equal, then I want to continue of running this the logic of adding another one. Let's see if it works, and if it does, I think I'll call I'll actually end on that for today. Well, for right now. Maybe I'll stream again in the evening or a little bit later. Okay, so I can pick it up, place those down, and there we go. I can actually place them back into one place. So that's pretty cool. We got the whole placing item, moving the items around. I guess that's more of we got, and right now I think would be would be the point where actually I start creating the recipe system. So what I was trying to create was use this inventory to create a crafting system. So right here at the bottom, I have those 3 slots, and you can place your I'm sorry, my kids woke up, so I gotta go feed him in a little bit. But so you can place these items here, and then what type of game? This is actually just a inventory system that I was creating. So the game itself, I mean, I was trying to kind of go towards an RPG style game. Let me see what so this is the environment that I've created, and I have a player that currently is kinematic, and I have a first person control movement here. So this is basically what I was doing. Well, that's basically the tutorials that I was making. Really snappy. I don't know if it's snappy because of the editor or I modified something, but yeah, that's the style of the game that I was making. But I mean, I was not creating the whole game. It just I guess the tutorial. I started with just making the inventory, and then someone asked for the first person controller, so I added that as well, and I have the hunger bar here as well. But I guess you can use them. You can use these tutorials in any type of a game. I guess you can use them separately, and not necessarily. So that's the crafting part will be the thing that I'll create next. So hopefully that's gonna be later today, where I'm gonna start actually creating those. creating the recipe for that and being able to create something. Okay, so thanks for stopping by. And I'll see you guys later if you'll be around.